Formación.
Broadcasting live from Houston, from the space city to the world, you are watching Now Media Television.
Broadcasting from Now Media Network's headquarters in Houston, this is Purple Politics, hosted by political expert and commentator Alina Gonzalez-Dockery. Join us to discuss the most important issues affecting our nation with fresh, balanced, and objective discussion on the first bilingual media network in the United States. Purple Politics starts right now.
Welcome to Purple Politics. And may I first say happy Halloween, because I don't know if this is a treat or a trick, but finally we have an elected Speaker of the House. And when I say finally, it is finally. House elects Mike Johnson, representative from Louisiana, as Speaker, who embraces a very hard-right conservative outlook. Representative Mike Johnson of Louisiana won election on Wednesday to become the 56th Speaker of the House of Representatives, as Republicans, worn down by 3 weeks of infighting, dysfunction, and other dramas, turned to a little-known conservative hardliner beloved by their far right to end their paralysis. And the reality is that Trump and his Freedom Caucus had a lot of influence over this election. The elevation of Mr. Johnson, 51, an architect of the effort to overturn the 2020 election, and one of the defenders of Trump's for the two impeachments for Trump, and a highly religious conservative opposed to abortion rights and gay right to marriage, further cemented the Republican Party's lurch to the right. It came after a historic fight that began when the hard right ousted Kevin McCarthy on October 3rd, which, once again, 8 of the Freedom Caucus members and hard right joined Democrats, who are supposed to be their arch nemesis, to throw out Kevin McCarthy, and took our government and plunged it into chaos. Not only the hilarity of watching the Republican Party as its constant infighting, which this isn't new for this year, but it really brought the infighting and drama out to the public purview. But what it most importantly did was caused a complete stop of Congress being able to do what it's supposed to do, its job. First off, we are all exhausted and glad to see that a Speaker of the House has finally been elected. After 3 candidates have been chosen, dropped out, or, as in with Jim Jordan, under secret ballot, tossed, the Republican Party finally came to an acquiescence, just saying, whoever's second, let them be it. In a marked victory for the far right that has become a very dominant and disruptive force in the Republican Party, it has dictated the removal, the election of its hierarchy. When the votes were cast, the Republicans jumped to their feet and applauded on Wednesday after Representative Patrick T. McHenry of North Carolina, the interim speaker, declared that Mr. Johnson was duly elected. In a speech that traced his ascent up to the political ladder in Louisiana to Congress, Mr. Johnson pledged to try to restore the people's faith in the House. He cited sending aid to Israel, fixing a broken southern border, and reining in federal spending as his top legislative policies. I, as I'm sure many Americans, just hope that the governance and leadership of not only Mr. Johnson, but also on the Democratic side, but within our own Republican caucus, I hope that they realize that purism is not the way to conduct business, that they have to put aside this petty squabbling and realize that we are now in much more difficult times than we were in the beginning of October. And we have to have serious issues dealt with. Conflict in Israel with their war against Hamas. Government spending bill. The CR is going to be coming up in 2 weeks. And also, we're going to have some serious discussion and debate about violence within America and gun controls. So let this be a reminder to all the House. I congratulate the new speaker, but you have some serious business, and that business requires governance, not purism. So let's dive a little more into Mike Johnson. Who is Mike Johnson? Not many people know who he is, which is an added benefit to his ascension. Now, Mike Johnson is the 56th Speaker of the House of Representatives, making him the second choice for the far-right faction within the Republican Party. While most of the extreme elements initially favored Representative Jim Jordan of Ohio, Johnson is seen as a suitable alternative who shares deeply conservative views, is not a member of the Freedom Caucus, but he is mentored by Jim Jordan. Mr. Johnson is seen as a softer, more approachable type of leader rather than Jim Jordan, who has been caustic, who has been seen as a January 6th extremist. And our hope is that he will be able to lead. Though this unknown has won this seat, which is now the third most powerful seat in governance, he is third in line behind Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. We are hoping that his public image and his conservative nature of being a God-fearing man, family, and patriot will allow him to be able to cross party lines and bring together bipartisan spending bills with actual meaningful legislation. Because let's remember, we are not in a time of Boehner or even Newt Gingrich. We have a Democrat-controlled administration and Democrat-controlled Senate. There will be concessions. Now, let's turn our focus onto the other side of our House of Representatives, the Democrats, who jeered, booed, even stated goodbye to some of the more moderate Republican caucus, such as the representatives from New York and some from Colorado and California. The Democrats are already planning to highlight Mr. Johnson's very conservative nature, his anti-abortion stance, and his anti-LGBTQ stance as a way of defeating moderate Republicans up for re-election in 2024 and in hopes of flipping the House to Democratic control once again. So yes, Mike Johnson is definitely much, much, much farther right than our former speaker, McCarthy. And our hopes is that he will be able to hear both sides. But those in the Freedom Caucus, those of that lovely squad of 8, they feel that they have made a major coup. Only time will tell, because in his first few moments as Speaker of the House, he already had a major chaotic event occurring in the United States, and that is the mass shooting and killing that had occurred in Maine, which is currently still a manhunt for this assailant. Mild-mannered, God-fearing, very conservative, stepping into the role of cameras, limelight, and a lot of opposition, not only from the other side, the Democratic Party, but from within his own. Because let's not forget that the Republican Party has been strife with internal struggles that date back to Newt Gingrich. Newt Gingrich, who broke a 40-year stranglehold by the Democrats of leading the House of Representatives. This infighting has to be rectified. This infighting also has to be dealt with in a way that common sense, something that we here at Purple Politics always adhere to. Bring common sense back to politics. Bring common sense back to governance, because we the people deserve better than what we have seen in these last 3 weeks. I myself can tell you that it is sickening to see that we have so much chaos and fear being stoked around the world. And America, which was once a leader in international communities, but also within our own country, the stalwart leadership that we need has been lacking for some time. No more divisiveness, no more stoking hate, no more stoking us against them. Let's come together. Oh, and let me remind all of us that elect these politicians, remember that when our government spending bill is coming up in 2 weeks, Congress salary is always paid, because it is not a part of that. So this is Alina Gonzalez Dockery. We will be right back. Because next, we're going to talk about the mass shootings in Maine and what political ramifications that may have in our coming issues. Be right back.
You are loved. You are valued. You are resilient. You got this.
You are there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides at aarp.org/caregiving.
These are the top 3 questions I get from people about investing in real estate. How much money do I need to get to the next level? How do I find good properties to invest in? Can I even make money in this business when interest rates are so high? I answer these questions and many more in my online course, SFR University, where I show you the strategy that I used to build a multi-million-dollar real estate business in 4 years from scratch. Whether you're just starting out or someone who's looking to scale, this course will have something for you. Join us at sfruniversity.com. See you in the course.
And welcome back to Purple Politics. We're now moving on to the tragedy that has occurred in Maine. Despite Maine passing a law trying to prevent mass shootings, and Maine being one of the lowest crime rate states with crime rates, a travesty has occurred that not only rocked the state of Maine, but reminds all of us the thin balance of when something so horrific as a mass shooting with mass casualties is occurring. Some are declaring that more needs to be done in Maine, but those voices are also being reflected to Congress. A deadly mass shooting in Maine, a state known for staunchly protecting its gun rights, has brought attention to the state's gun laws and their potential impact on public safety. The governor signed a yellow flag law aimed at preventing mass shootings, but critics argue that more stringent measures like red flag laws are needed to save lives. A yellow flag line is supposed to occur when someone who may have mental health issues, it will allow the police to be able to confiscate their guns. But the suspect in this mass shooting had a history of mental health to the point of possible schizophrenic episodes and hospitalizations. And he had self-reported his threats to authorities, raising questions as to whether the yellow flag law could have been enforced in this case. Gun control advocates blame Maine's weak gun laws for the tragedy, while others blame Republicans' hard stance on their allegiance with NRA and Second Amendment rights is also a cause of why assault rifles, such as used in these Maine murders, should be still allowed to be on the streets. Maine is among about 20 states that allow permitless carry of concealed weapons, Florida being one of those, reflecting a strong gun culture tied to hunting and sport shooting. Efforts to strengthen these gun laws in the state, including background checks for private sales and waiting periods for gun purchases, have faced multiple setbacks. Others argue that more stringent gun laws are not what is necessary, but that the current gun laws and background checks must be adhered to. But some question whether supporting a yellow flag law, which requires a medical evaluation of individuals suspected of being mentally ill, is sufficient. Should it be across the board? Take a psychological evaluation to determine whether or not you are of sound mind to own a gun. Gun control advocates criticize the law as potentially traumatizing for families. Because of what? All of this still can be confidential. This gentleman self-reported that he was having schizophrenic moments, that he was planning and had urges and voices telling him to do a mass shooting. After 2 weeks of being hospitalized, he was released. Is this a failing of the yellow flag law, or is this a failing of the mental health crisis that we are seeing across the United States that has been even more so exacerbated due to COVID and its shutdowns? Gun control advocates are screaming for stronger measures, to the point that Vice President Kamala Harris, in her own press release or news junket, said that it is time for the United States to have more stringent gun laws, mirroring those of Australia. Now, let me remind you that Australia has banned assault rifles and has required its citizens to give up its guns, and they have to have stringent applications process. There is a stark difference between us and Australia. We have a constitutional right to bear arms. Now, does that right allow us to have semi-automatic or fully automatic assault rifles or machine guns? There will be more developing on this, and we will continue to monitor what is hopeful. But one thing I can say is Our hearts are with those families and the survivors of this horrific assault that occurred in Maine. And our prayers continue to be with those that have to deal with the aftermath of this assailant's wanton disregard for life. And we pray that law enforcement will be able to capture the assailant without further harm to others. Now, on to Democrats and the splintering over Israel as the young, diverse left rages at Biden. President Biden's approval ratings from September to the end to present, to the end of October, has dropped by 11%. As a raw divide over the war ripples through liberal America, a coalition of young voters and people of color are breaking with the president, raising new questions about his strength entering into 2024's election. The Democratic Party's years-long unity behind President Biden is beginning to erode over his steadfast support of Israel in its escalating war with Hamas. A left-leaning coalition of young voters and people of color showing more discontent toward him than at any point since he was elected. This being even more voiced by the far-left progressive squad, the 5 members of the squad, led by Representative Tlaib, who she, as well as the other 4 in the squad, have yet to denounce the horrific terrorist attacks upon the civilians of Israel, and claiming that Biden's administration and Biden himself is responsible for the killing of Palestinians, and are denouncing him and stating that they will bring all retribution so that he cannot be elected. This is coming at a time where polls are showing that former President Trump edges out Biden in what is seen as a 1-to-1 or rematch of 2020. From Capitol Hill to Hollywood, in labor unions and liberal activist groups, and on college campuses and high school cafeterias, a raw emotional divide over the conflict is convulsing liberal America. While moderate Democrats and critics on the right have applauded Mr. Biden's backing of Israel, and for a very large Jewish contingency that continues to support the Democrats, they too are applauding Biden's staunch belief and show of unity with Israel. The views of the Palestinian cause is seen as an extension of the social justice movements and racial movement. And this is one of the things, because now what you're seeing is this anti-colonialism sentiment as part of the social justice movement, or seeing that Israel is this white supremacist country, which in fact, demographically, Israel is very multicultural and very multiracial. And it is not a predominantly white nation. But these are some of the things that have to be overcome, because there is a serious lack of education or lack of understanding. Because what we are seeing on the streets, what we are seeing in the House of Congress just last week, is a more vitriolic and violent speech that is very anti-Semitic, very anti-Israel, but now calling out Biden to step down. So as a 2024 election is looming, and with an aging president who some still question whether he's capable of furthering his presidential bid or even being president for 4 more years, this fractious and disorganized effort and little agreement on how much blame to lay at Mr. Biden's feet or whether to punish him next year is still something that must be dealt with. Much like the Republican Party has to deal with the extreme right, whether you want to call it the Freedom Caucus, MAGA. I mean, at one point it was the Tea Party, which is, I guess, still something. Now you're having in the Democratic Party, once a unified voice for at least winning the seat is now having a fraction. There is a notable schism growing. And no matter the calls to Representative Bernie Sanders, who is seen as the leader of the progressive movement, or for Elizabeth Warren, there is more and more vitriolic condemnation of this administration's support of Israel and their ability to defend its borders. Setting apart these challenges, like voters' dissatisfaction with the economy, Mr. Biden's allies believe much can be solved with proper messaging, better PR. When we have messaging now stating that our economic growth in the United States has risen by over 4%, the president is confident that he will be able to rally the Democrats once again and get the leadership all under one understanding. That it's best to get along and go forward to win the presidential election rather than to fracture and cause a schism and result in what is most likely another presidential tenure, 4 years of President Trump. So the question lies to the Democrats. Is it better the devil you know or the devil you don't know? Which pretty much, you know, Trump, he may have gotten even more extreme now. Or is it best to still coalesce and circle the wagons and protect Biden? It is an interesting time and somewhat unknown by Biden, because Biden, who has always been characterized as a moderate, though his last 3 years have been nothing but moderate. He has taken on the woke ideology. He has pushed their agenda. And for the first time, he is not allowing the wokeness to take over his administration in this particular stance. So the question is, do the Democrats coalesce around him or let him flail and push him out for a new candidate? We will be right back after this commercial break, where we will be going into international news and how it relates back to the United States. Tune in after these commercial break.
These are the top 3 questions I get from people about investing in real estate. How much money do I need to get to the next level? How do I find good properties to invest in? Can I even make money in this business when interest rates are so high? I answer these questions and many more in my online course, SFR University, where I show you the strategy that I used to build a multi-million-dollar real estate business in 4 years from scratch. Whether you're just starting out or someone who's looking to scale, this course will have something for you. Join us at sfruniversity.com. See you in the course.
Are you a business owner feeling overwhelmed or burnt out with no energy left for what's most important to you? In order to effectively run your business and maximize your profits, you have got to be the best possible you that you can be. Now is the time to reclaim your energy, master your schedule, and maximize your profits so you can effectively run your business rather than it running you. It's time to become the CEO of your business and life. I'm Jen Godet, a business strategist and life coach. I work with overwhelmed business owners who feel stuck in a rut and depleted. I teach you how to stop doing the things that aren't making you money and start prioritizing the things that bring you energy, joy, and lasting impact. I'm a human performance specialist and an international best-selling author. I've helped countless people all over the world to learn the art of saying no, overcome their fear, and maximize their performance. Let's get you to live your best possible reality. Start today and become the CEO of your business and your life.
Taking a trip in the next 12 months? Airlines are under tremendous pressure and they're practically giving away their unsold seats. Like every crisis, this one will end too. But right now is the best time to take advantage of giveaway ticket prices on their unsold seats. We're not allowed to publish these low fares online. The only way to get these rock bottom giveaway prices is to call. So phone low-cost airlines now for airline ticket prices you may never see again.
Hey, are you a small business owner that's struggling to double or triple your revenue and profits? My name is Michael Rager. I'm your business guide with Teach Your Business to Fish. Our success operating system will help you double or triple your profits every 2 to 3 years while actually maintaining some semblance of a home life. Call us at 713-201-5559 and we'll help you become a real success.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
U.S. fighter jets strike Iran-linked sites in Syria in retaliation for attacks on U.S. troops. The U.S. conducted airstrikes in eastern Syria targeting locations linked to Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps in response to recent attacks on U.S. bases and personnel in the region. These precision strikes, carried out by 2 F-16 fighter jets near Bukamal, targeted weapons and ammunition storage areas connected to the IRGC. The U.S. has not yet provided information on casualties or damage assessment. The sites were chosen based on the types of munitions used in the recent attacks on these U.S. bases. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin stated that these strikes were in self-defense and aimed at deterring further attacks. The Biden administration emphasized that the strikes were not intended to escalate the conflict in the region, but to compel Iran, to direct militia groups to cease their attacks on American bases and personnel. The U.S. has not accused Iran of having a direct role in the recent conflict involving Hamas, but has expressed concern that Iran and its proxies could expand the conflict into a wider war. The U.S. remains committed to defending its forces and interests in the region and will take additional action if necessary. The U.S. responded to similar attacks in the past with the aim of protecting its personnel engaged in counterterrorism effects. The recent attacks are not directly linked to the conflict between Israel and Hamas, and the U.S. has maintained that its response is proportional and focused on deterring attacks against U.S. personnel. The bases that are within Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon have seen attacks and attempts of attacks, and the U.S. has been strong in stating that any attack on its personnel will be dealt with proportionately, but will not be tolerated. The U.S. has stated unequivocally that it will defend its personnel, and to the point that the administration has now sent reinforcements to those bases to ensure the continuing safety of our military personnel, but as well as maintaining peace. Because, as Ronald Reagan stated, the showing of strength allows for peace, and it is that time to show strength. Moving on to the Israeli-Hamas conflict and its hostages. There are still currently 217 hostages held by Hamas. 30 of those children, toddlers, and babies. These 30 children were taken by the Hamas militants in their attack of kibbutzes and entering family homes on that fateful October 7th morning. And these families wait in agony, not knowing what is happening or what is their current condition of these children. Families of captives in the Israel-Gaza conflict face a distressing limbo, distinct from grieving. On October 7th, during a Hamas attack on Kfar Aza, 3-year-old Abigail Eden lost her parents, sought shelter with a neighbor, and later disappeared with the neighbor's family, all of whom were confirmed captives of Hamas. This nightmarish ordeal extends to these other 30 children taken hostage from Israel, leaving their families in agony and distress. They grapple with emotions ranging from hope to despair and rage, desperately seeking information and proof of life. Nearly half of Gaza's 2.3 million population are children, and the death toll has surpassed 7,000 Palestinians, including 2,900 minors. And with more than 800 children still missing, the torment on civilians, taking them hostage, on the innocents that are the victims of this war. Abducting children is extremely rare and has not been seen by any terrorist organization in the past. This is a brutal act. And yes, Hamas is a terrorist organization. And Hamas is also the governing body of Gaza. Hamas continues its torture upon the Palestinian people by first putting armed militants and not allowing them to escape, to flee the areas that are being targeted by airstrikes, or the small little maneuvers of Israeli forces within Gaza. This is a travesty not only for those poor families who have no idea of what is happening with their family members or whether their own babies and children will be returned to them, but there is grief for the part of the Palestinians that are seeing that their young children are dying as a result of the airstrikes. they are dying as a result of a war that was begun by Hamas. And the human shields that are continuing to be used by an organization that does not have a deference for human life. These are, and I'm sorry, but I will get emotional. These young children deserve so much better, because prior to October 7th, and maybe naively, both Israelis and Palestinians thought the ceasefire was holding, that there was finally a moment of peace. Set aside the fact that Hamas still during this this time of peace was still launching rockets into Israel. There was not a firing of back, but now we have absolute devastation. Missiles are still being launched both into Israel and the strikes against Palestine. Even this morning, an apartment building in Tel Aviv was a direct hit of missiles being launched from Palestine. And let us not forget that the hospital, Al-Hafif, the parking lot that was blown and people who were mortally injured and killed, was a misfiring of Palestinian missiles. We here at Purple Politics, but I would feel certain that I can say, even here in the United States, our hearts are going out to these victims. We implore the international community, especially the League of Arab Countries, to demand and renunciate Hamas and their taking of hostages, and for the release of these 30 children, if not all hostages. As we are seen at a time of greater dysfunction and bifurcation of beliefs, where we are seeing people tearing down, ripping up posters of those taken hostage, as we're seeing an anti-Semitic climb in sentiment or anti-Israeli decline, that the one winner in all of this, it seems, is Hamas, because for whatever reason, no matter the atrocities that has been occurring, and the fact that they have 200 plus hostages, 30 of those innocent children, we have to find, as an international community, a way of seeing through, of releasing these hostages. I am Alina Gonzalez-Dockery. We'll be right back for more news.
These are the top 3 questions I get from people about investing in real estate. How much money do I need to get to the next level? How do I find good properties to invest in? Can I even make money in this business when interest rates are so high? I answer these questions and many more in my online course, SFR University, where I show you the strategy that I used to build a multi-million-dollar real estate business in 4 years from scratch. Whether you're just starting out or someone who's looking to scale, this course will have something for you. Join us at sfruniversity.com. See you in the course.
Are you a business owner feeling overwhelmed or burnt out with no energy left for what's most important to you? In order to effectively run your business and maximize your profits, you have got to be the best possible you that you can be. Now is the time to reclaim your energy, master your schedule, and maximize your profits so you can effectively run your business rather than it running you. It's time to become the CEO of your business and life. I'm Jen Godet, a business strategist and life coach. I work with overwhelmed business owners who feel stuck in a rut and depleted. I teach you how to stop doing the things that aren't making you money and start prioritizing the things that bring you energy, joy, and lasting impact. I'm a human performance specialist and an international best-selling author. I've helped countless people all over the world to learn the art of saying no, overcome their fear, and maximize their performance. Let's get you to live your best possible reality. Start today and become the CEO of your business and your life.
Taking a trip in the next 12 months? Airlines are under tremendous pressure and they're practically giving away their unsold seats. Like every crisis, this one will end too. But right now is the best time to take advantage of giveaway ticket prices on their unsold seats. We're not allowed to publish these low fares online. The only way to get these rock bottom giveaway prices is to call. So phone low cost airlines now for airline ticket prices you may never see again.
Hey, are you a small business owner that's struggling to double or triple your revenue and profits? My name is Michael Rager. I'm your business guide with Teach Your Business to Fish. Our success operating system will help you double or triple your profits every 2 to 3 years while actually maintaining some semblance of a home life. Call us at 713-201-5559 and we'll help you become a real success.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline today and learn about the latest CGM technology. Not only can a CGM immediately reduce pain, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. And if you have Medicare or private insurance, you can see if you qualify for a CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. We'll also provide free shipping of your new CGM, and we'll bill your insurance company for you. If you use insulin daily, you might be eligible to get your own continuous glucose monitor. So call the US Med Diabetic Health Hotline to see if you qualify for a CGM at little to no out-of-pocket cost.
And now to election news. Looks like we have a new candidate throwing his name in the hat for the Democratic primary. Dean Phillips, representative from Minnesota, announces his long shot challenge to Biden in the Democratic primary. Representative Dean Phillips, a moderate Democrat, has declared his candidacy for the 2024 presidential election. Phillips, who represents a suburban district in Minnesota, acknowledged that he faces long shot odds in the Democratic primary. He emphasized the need for an alternative to President Biden, citing polling data that suggests the president may be at risk of losing to former President Donald Trump. Phillips has been a vocal proponent of the idea that a primary challenge is necessary due to President Biden's age and low approval ratings. He is part of a new generation of Democratic candidates seeking to provide fresh leadership. However, he faces an uphill battle with a DNC that is staunchly behind the current president. As he starts the uphill battle for this primary election, one that the DNC, when Kennedy was still a Democratic candidate, refused to even schedule debates. This Democratic candidate is establishing his right to be in the mix, but he does face more so than just the DNC. Major donors have already tied in with Biden. Major PACs have already hitched themselves to the Biden wagon. Much of this because of the stronghold that the DNC has allowed. Now, this congressman is a little different. he comes from a very, very wealthy background, an heir to a large liquor company and also family of a gelato company. He is trying to move quickly to secure spots on the ballot in early voting states. As such, he has already missed the deadline to be allowed on the ballot for Nevada. So he does have a lot of challenges and hurdles to overcome. Phillips, who comes from a family with connections to the liquor and gelato industries, was first elected in 2018 during the wave of Democratic victories in suburban cities and districts in response to the Donald Trump presidency. He joins Marianne Williamson and Senek Uyghur as other candidates for the Democratic primary. And I stated earlier, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. had announced just a few weeks ago his leaving the Democratic primary and running as an independent because of the roadblocks, well, if you will, cement walls, to his ability to run an effective campaign and be seriously allowed to run for the primary. So now things are even more interesting, where some have stated that Kennedy going independent may pull voters away from Biden, though it's suspected that it'll be more so from Trump's camp. Now we have a young moderate Democrat who has questioned the capacity of a president who shows diminishing qualities is able to go forward for another 4 years. And this is coupled with Biden's approval ratings, which have tanked 11 points in the last month. Much of that is believed to be because of the fracturing of the young Democratic liberals who are showing more and more support for pro-Palestinian efforts and are attacking Biden on his support of Israel. So we are now starting to really see that the Democratic president does not have his party sewn up. The real question is, will the Democratic leadership and the Democratic convention and committee be able to sew all of the Democrats back together and state that beating Trump is more important than liking your candidate or believing your candidate will be able to cross the finish line with senility? But this is what we're going to be seeing. Now, what's fun, if you will, about all of this is all of this is now starting to overshadow the Republican primary, because remember, we still have a Republican primary. And in that primary, we still have many candidates, to include DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Vivek Ramaswamy, Mike Pence, Tim Scott, Chris Christie, and who knows who else, that are still running for what they're hoping is to catch up to the Donald, former President Trump. So things are definitely getting more interesting. If you're a political junkie like myself, at least things will start livening up. And now let's go back to thinking of livening up. We are now coming on to Halloween. And as I said, is it a trick or is it a treat to be the Speaker of the House? Is the Speaker of the House position cursed with specters of past speakers, ills, and foibles still haunting what is now going to be the new Speaker, Representative Johnson's position? In less than 24 hours, he's already being maligned because of his very Christian background and saying that he is praying for safety, praying for the victims' families of the Maine mass shootings. But let's look further into this curse, as you will. The history of the Republican speakers in the U.S. House of Representatives is marked by challenges and turnover, beginning with Newt Gingrich to John Boehner to the most recent victim, Kevin McCarthy. Republican speakers have often faced turbulence from within their own party. This has resulted in a pattern of ousting speakers when it wasn't no longer popular among the few in Republican caucus, which is a stark contrast to the Democrats. Give it to the Democrats. They may infight. They may be petty. They may complain. You may have a little group of five that like to squawk and complain and be very boisterous in bringing protesters within the Capitol building. However, the one thing they do is they rally around their leadership because the Democratic Party is what is the loyalty owed to, not the individual leader. Whereas Republicans, no, not so much. And we're also seeing a further divide within the Republican caucus because as much as the Freedom Caucus and the super MAGA elected officials think that that is the way that their constituents want, there is the other side. You have to look at if the Republican Party wishes to maintain its slim majority or even grow that majority in 2024, they have now severely hampered and probably handcuffed those Republican representatives and some senators in moderate states. Those states which are purple in essence or more politically liberal, like some areas of New York, California, Colorado, just to name a few. Some of these extreme right Republican representatives has even called out their fellow Republicans, such as the representatives down in Miami, stating that they are a disgrace to the party, that they should be out of their seats. So how does newly elected Speaker Johnson handle not only the precarious balance of being able to govern and to lead an almost 50-50 split Congress, but also bring together the Republican caucus so that legislation can move forward? Also, let's remember, purism is not in Congress. Purist ideology does not mean governance. So our speaker now has to do a very good tightrope routine in balancing and putting together this caucus and keeping that majority together and meeting, negotiating, and dealing with President Biden and his administration, as well as a Democratic-controlled Senate. So we will see whether, once again, the Republican Party has the specters of the ghosts and oust another speaker, or will we see unity and some governance? This is what I would say is the days of congressional lives. We have a soap opera. We will continue to monitor it. From Purple Politics, I wish to wish everybody who does go out there a happy Halloween and enjoying this new fall weather we're going into. We will see you next week where we will continue our coverage of the election, give some feedback on the primary debates that are occurring tonight in Miami, as well as the continuing saga of Democratic Party and Republicans, and also the more serious updates of the war in Israel. I am Alina Gonzalez Stockbury. Thank you for joining me, and I wish you all a good night.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature presentation. All rights reserved.
Taking a trip in the next 12 months? Airlines are under tremendous pressure and they're practically giving away their unsold seats. Like every crisis, this one will end too. But right now is the best time to take advantage of giveaway ticket prices on their unsold seats. We're not allowed to publish these low fares online. The only way to get these rock bottom giveaway prices is to call. So phone